What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. It's Formlessness Podcast. Thanks, clipping. Thanks for listening, and this is the episode with Louis de Barraicua. Louis de Barraicua. Spelling? Question mark pronunciation? Spelling check? Test check pronunciation? Spelling pronunciation spelling check. This is a great episode. It was recorded during the absolute peak of the Pisces full moon, so think about that while you're listening. Also, the show is basically officially started now for the first time, and it's taken about 3 or 4 years to fully get going, and I'm very, very honestly excited to I'm so excited to bring this news to you that the podcast of Formlessness is up and running, and the Patreon is there, and what you get, and I'm doing a great job with this ad. So thanks for listening to the podcast. If you want to see the video of this, subscribe to the Patreon. If you want to download and fully hear the track that's playing right now, and have that all for yourself to do whatever you like with, go subscribe to the Patreon. If you want to hear bonus episodes that are really crazy and really where I'm telling you the real stuff and doing the real deal and all the stuff that you don't even know, it's so dope and crazy, holy shit. But subscribe to the Patreon. Give me money, please. Also, thank you so much to Louis for being on the show and doing the show. Louis de Barraicua. I just want to say that making funny sounds with your voice and talking in funny ways is a beautiful thing. And there's a lot of stuff going on where people sort of are afraid of talking in a silly way because they don't want to do some sort of racist accent or cultural appropriation. And I just gotta say, if you're feeling sort of unsafe in those waters, and I'm fucking not recording. Am I seriously not recording any of this? You fucking kidding me? Okay, I was recording. So we're back, and I just want to say that talking funny ways, using funny voices is really like one of the best things to do for health and joy and energy regeneration and processing, emotional processing. And for me, when I talk in my funny voice, yeah, sometimes it's influenced by wanting to do an Australian accent or a British accent, but or an Italian accent. There are these sort of things that my voice does naturally that sort of sounds like some of these other accents, but it's really, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, like, you can do or say or sound however you like. It has nothing to do with cultural appropriation or racist being, unless, of course, you are doing it in a way that has an intention of being racist, or doing it in a way that is intentionally sort of feeding off of these objectifying stereotypes. But that's different than expressing an energy that might sound like a stereotype if you're doing it from a place of your own expression. And that is the clear boundary between things, and that is my clear stance. And I'll reiterate it again one last time before we jump into things. You can do whatever you want. There's no need to temper your self-expression. The only thing that keeps the good and the bad is your own intention. And it's as simple as that, and it's not confusing, and it's not hard to understand or tune into, and you can be confident in expressing yourself. even though it is scary knowing that all these people are so sort of fucked and reactive to any given thing, and you might be the brunt of their anger for expressing yourself, but that's okay. Just know that there's nothing wrong with self-expression. There's nothing wrong with being silly. There's nothing wrong with talking the funny way. Yeah, love you. Thanks for listening. This is a really interesting, cool, fun, beautiful episode. Again, it was recorded during the Pisces full moon, so I am sort of fully in my Pisces state of mind. And yeah, I love you so much. Thanks so much for listening. It's been such a fun time recording this intro. Okay, bye.
Well, whenever you're ready. Yeah.
All right, you sit here.
All right.
There's water for you there. If you're
Oh
thirsty.
wow, nice. Fiji water, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the unofficial sponsor of the show. Haven't received communication from them yet or money from them, but it is the sponsor
Nice.
for this episode.
Well, we start small and, maybe put out the frequency,
Yes. Yes. The Fiji frequency.
Yeah. I read somewhere this is actually the best water for you.
Oh, yeah?
Like because if it has too much alkaline, it's too, not so great.
Really?
But this has like just amount of minerals.
Yeah.
Because minerals are also important. I don't know if you watched that Netflix thing with Zac Efron, and he talked about.
Really?
I think it was
I don't
him.
know about this.
Yeah, but water has to have those mineral qualities. So.
Yeah, I never thought about too much pH. Because, like, I'll get the pH water every once in a while and drink it and feel like I really feel it.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But then if I keep drinking it, I don't feel it, and it starts to, like, taste weird. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, cool place you have here, man. Very nice.
Thanks.
I see a tech lover for sure. A lot of cool things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like got cool visuals, got cool keyboards.
Yes. You got headphones there if you want to hear the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
It's up to your choice. I don't know.
Can you hear it when you play it?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's your level over there on that knob if you want to turn it up.
Oh nice.
Right here.
Oh right here?
Yeah, but the knob closest to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh nice. So this is like you're waiting for someone who has musical talent or something, right?
No. I'm forcing everyone who doesn't have musical talent to play.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So so I went on your Instagram. I noticed you just launched this thing, huh? And I think it's kind of cool because part of my grassroots efforts on my journey to become Los Angeles mayor is to work with real people who can now be the media. To bring information directly to the people that's without any alternative interests.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, so
that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, so this is really cool, and I know I've tried to start many things in my own life, and I know the type of encouragement that you need and the type of tenacity you need. Like you really need a belief in what you're doing, and I guess I'm honored to have been given this opportunity for your podcast, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I've actually been doing this for a while, like 3 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in this situation where I care very much about being transparent and honest about as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I experienced a lot of sort of kickback for doing that, where the things I would talk about and the honesty I would share would not, I don't know, it just kind of created the opposite effect that I wanted.
Yeah.
Because there's like too much societal pressure in some areas.
Yeah.
To be able to talk openly about things and even just be interested in the idea of
right
transparency.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I have learned about this act of being transparent. I haven't always, because I grew up in a household where I was always in trouble for doing something, So it wasn't something that I grew up with. It was transparency because I didn't ever wanted my parents to know what I was doing,
Yeah, right.
And I think and my parents were everything was scary in the world to them. So
Yeah.
if they knew, what I was really doing, I'd never be able to do anything. So,
Right.
It's like a childhood long habit, and to break out of it, and to know, I guess when I started getting into art, I started to see transparency as a form of exposition, right?
Yes.
And bringing it, bringing the transparency in context, and not always out of context, because it could be confusing if the audience if you don't have a clear narrative for your transparency, then it could seem a little jarring, actually. So it's an art form.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've also, I've been sort of making episodes and then taking them offline.
Yeah.
As a means of kind of clearing the buildup of negative context that I have personally, that I am using transparency to work through.
Well, this part of the learning process is knowing how really everything that you do is an art, know, and as a teacher who learned art through teaching, I realized that the mystery of art is what engages people, and it has to be done well. And you making these mistakes is part of your journey, because it's just learning. It's not even a mistake. It's part of your evolution, I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Keep going, man.
Nice. I will. Hopefully. I don't know. I got like one more month's rent before I gotta get a job, unless I can start making money with this. So, audience, listen. If you want to see the video of this, subscribe to the Patreon. All right, it's $10 a month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So what is the Patreon exactly?
Well, I'm still kind of trying to work it out a little bit, but it is essentially like the video feed of this show will be on there.
Okay.
Also, like all the archives of the past 3 years of all the experimental different stuff I've done in terms of interviewing and just sharing.
How are you cinematically? How are you shooting it to engage your viewers? Are you zooming in? Are you editing? Because I noticed you had a very wide angle, and because it's tough. Even the video podcast is like a video podcast, right? So, I think there's so much information out there. You really have to like find a really differentiating factor, And I think this transparency thing, and is, and being like a little mini CNN, kind of like finding out real information, and I'm a real person. I'm right here, so let's talk.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. Yeah. Well, I guess what I have, I'm like live switching between the angles here.
Okay. Wow.
Between I figure it's
that's a cool tool. What is that?
This is a Atom Mini, another sponsor of the show. It's like a 4-channel HDMI switcher.
Oh, nice.
And
I've seen one of those.
Yeah, I feel like the editing isn't the best. It isn't as good as if I edit it.
But
later.
It's live though, right?
It's live. It's way less work for me. It's way better for me to be able to just kind of like make the whole thing in the moment.
Oh yeah. I'm digging that for sure.
Yeah. So I'm switching through the angles, and then my plan is to like have little clips of the video.
So is there a camera over here?
Yeah.
Oh, right, that one.
That's your.
Oh, nice.
That's your angle. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. My plan is to clip little pieces of this, put it on YouTube and stuff, put it out for free, sort of get people into maybe wanting to pay to see the full thing. Then the audio only will be free as well, just as a normal podcast.
Oh yeah. Well, I think as you go along, you'll do discovery on what is the workable reality that people will pay for, and I find out with these things, like, you really got to find out, your little niche, and then your little niche who's going to pay, And in a way, this is something that should be supported, in my opinion, by somehow through, somehow that structure has to exist for people to be able to do this, and for the best information dispensers, right? The media, the grassroots media, the ones that have the best, most organized content. You're obviously very organized, and you got a lot going on here.
Thank you.
So technically you got everything, and it doesn't seem like it seems like I wish that for citizens, that now that I'm here, I'm like thinking out loud, like it'd be cool to be able to support this, to be able to support people who have this authentic calling to be the media.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, the interesting thing is, for the first time, I was able to like qualify for unemployment
Mm-hmm.
through this pandemic, which is a start to that. Whereas like artists are recognized as it being a job for the first time, which is kind of a step in that direction. But yeah, I don't know. I think the stuff I consume in terms of
Mm-hmm.
media is mostly like hosted on Patreon or other like pay,
Mm-hmm.
where you pay the creator to
Mm-hmm.
access the content. Because as far as like even entertainment goes, I haven't been able to watch movies or TV for a few years because I'm like so passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watch all this stuff, all I see is that it's a formulaic, sort of contrived effort to appeal to certain demographics,
Mm-hmm.
and the characters and the stories and everything is so limited by what people think is acceptable or okay or sellable or
Mm-hmm.
any of this stuff. So as far as like standard media consumption or public media, I don't know of anything that I watch or consume at all, other than like these specific niche, privatized things.
Yeah, it's it's like, I always think of it as like we're like these human beings, very advanced creatures who eat, drink, and recharge. And
yes.
we have these eyes and these ears, and we have like surround sound. We have these are our cameras, right?
Yeah.
And whatever we consume in terms of on the screen, what we see, it becomes a reality. So when you start seeing that news, what's interesting about the news is that there are corporations that are behind that news that have an agenda about what they want you to see. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of media literacy, is knowing that. But I know people who watch the news and they consider that the delivery of that information to be the truth. Real reality, the truth, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we run into problems, is that we have these new characters who they're just being authentic, and people sense that, and they're like, I like that person because they're authentic, and at least I'm getting something real, right?
Yeah.
I don't care what they think or but that's real, right?
Yeah.
And so,
because that is sort of able to be sensed by anyone, no matter what kind of person you are. People, mm-hmm. There is some sort of like innate instinctual communication that happens when someone's actually being genuine.
Right.
Regardless of what they're genuine about is true or not.
They could be miseducated and ill-informed and never read a book and say whatever they want, and if they're being genuine, that's more appealing than someone who they know is full of it,
Yeah.
So that that's sort of one of these things we don't really value in modern politics. I think we're starting to value it more now that post-pandemic, right? People were, part of being someone who's going to be signing up to run for Los Angeles mayor.
Yes.
I see these people. Oh, thank you. I see these people who, they're out there campaigning and doing stuff, and but without really, that if things aren't resonating with the people are letting them know, like, that's not cool, go away, and I think I don't see how they can recover from that in a way, because some of the ideas they've introduced have been so far from, and authentic enough to really compel anyone. But so then you gotta wonder, like, well, what is going to work now, And, and so the concept that I've come up with is the idea that be transparent, be yourself. There is a perfection in that, right?
Yeah.
The real issue becomes when someone else doesn't find it perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when you say, that's when you begin to tell a story, right?
Yeah.
Is when someone sees, your sort of forgiveness of self, right? Because that's what it takes to be transparent. Is you have to say, hey, I know I'm not perfect for many people, right? And I've seen myself imperfect for so long, but I've come to do this because there's a purpose behind my transparency. It's a political one.
Yeah.
And not everyone has to do it, but I am going to do it because I think I would know how, and I think that's what people kind of need now,
Yeah. Yeah. Because regardless, the sort of avenues between the public and the state or the government are more open and more direct than they've ever been, So the people have more of a voice, I think, and because of that, there's a higher level of genuinity and realness that needs to come from the politicians and the people in power.
Yeah, it's hard because they have a culture, of like, a friendship already, like people who are like council member who has relationships with these constituents and these people who've given money.
Yeah.
And so you don't know really who they're obligated to. And that's kind of tough because, when you have a vision for the people, right, you have to be able to proceed in the best interest of the people, but at the same time collaborate and explain yourself clear enough so you can work with everyone, but you have to be clear and articulate things so people know it's not about them. That you disagree with them,
right?
But it's not really about hurting your feelings. It's about creating a path for success.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that blew me away about you the other day at this rap party. Your ability to communicate with all sorts of kinds of people in that way that remains true and authentic to yourself, but without, inciting those reactions.
Right.
People.
Yeah, and it's maybe it comes from watching so many movies, because when I hear good dialogue, I always think, why is that so good? Yeah. And then I think about it and I ask myself, how could I talk like that? How could I be, that clear, that clever, that, You know what I mean? Like the guy from Pulp Fiction, like the Wolfman, they're all nervous and doing all this stuff. And he's like, well, you got to do this. And he just breaks it down, makes it simple, right?
Yeah.
And, these movies, they kind of teach us about, the dark side of the world. They teach us dialogue. They inspire us with stories like Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, that whole Disney princess who ends up with Marcellus Wallace, and then she's like a failed actress, and she was sold a dream that didn't exist, and you see her in pain, and John Travolta has to take her out, and And so you kind of see sort of Quentin Tarantino channeling these things, whether he's doing it consciously or not. It's just really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's one whose voice seems to have remained strong enough to not be super influenced by the political correctness or status quo sort of shit
it's funny
that goes
because
on.
when I used to live in Los Feliz, I went to go see Kill Bill 2 at the ArcLight Theaters, and I was watching Kill Bill 2, and guess who was sitting right in front of me the day it was released?
Quentin Tarantino?
Quentin Tarantino, yeah.
Damn.
And he was laughing, and he was looking at the audience. And it wasn't that full. The theater wasn't that full because it was in the middle of the day.
Sure.
And when he went to the bathroom, I followed him, and I said hi to him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of that was me, kind of like. And he was really nice. He was nice to me, even in the bathroom, which I'm sure happens to him a lot. But
yeah, but it's that he's sort of completing the full cycle of making this thing, but not breaking himself off from the public or the people.
Yeah.
And not creating sort of like a one way or imbalanced.
Right. I mean, the media. I think sometimes he's like he says, well, I disagree with your thesis, and it's like headlines like, oh, he said I disagree with your thesis. He's a bad man, but what's the big deal about that?
Yeah.
I mean, a
disagreement. So that's okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, but I'm just talking about how he's portrayed. You should be able to.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a headline like I disagree with your thesis. Like I guess it paints him. Yeah. Someone could read that and not even read the article and think, oh, he disagreed with the thesis. Like big deal.
Yeah.
So he's a good guy. He's well, from what I met him. I think it's cool. Like Alfred Hitchcock, he puts himself in his movies sometimes. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Have you made movies? You have, yeah.
Well, I taught filmmaking for a few years, but it's just like at performing arts schools, and I learned how to make movies in the process while I was teaching, and I learned how to write dialogue and do all these things. But first 10 films I made, every time you make a film, you always think you're better than you are.
Boy, oh boy, do I agree with that. Yeah.
And so, like, the first 10 films I made, I was just like, damn, it's not really turning out quite that good,
Yeah.
Second 10, I was just like, not that good, but better, technically better, like sound. And then the last 10 I made started improving, where I was like, well, I'm kind of happy with how I'm directing, how I'm lighting the scenes, my cinematography, my casting, and I would work with kids to make these films. But I still was very interested in even with our zero budget, I was still interested in doing the best job I could. And in that process, I got good. I think I got good at where I got pretty good. And then I kind of lost interest. And I thought the real stage of the world's a stage, and each of us must play a part.
Yeah.
And I am
Los Angeles mayor.
Yeah, right. Los Angeles mayor, and on the stage of real life, like Shakespeare said, the world's a stage, and each of us must play our part.
Yeah.
And who are you, Colin?
I'm a guy. Used to be confident. Used to be.
Used to? Why?
Well, I feel like my confidence and my excitement about acting out as if the world was a stage was not contextualized correctly. I was in communities and areas where that sort of idea was squashed.
Oh, okay,
And,
yeah. Where was that?
This was in Washington State and Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
It's happened to me. I mean, that's why it's good to fail on a small scale. because you just practice for the real thing, and,
Yeah.
and I've had, my journey into politics has been, very indirect. It's been about being a real person and a real citizen, a teacher for 20 years. I worked for UCLA doing research with the homeless for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I used to write ads for Nike, and I worked for Nissan North America in advanced planning, consumer affairs, and product development. And so that was in their legal department. And so that was like but the most educational and enjoyable has been understanding the human mind through teaching and how education works and how really our educational system has to be completely revamped, almost from scratch.
My God. Yeah.
And so it's like we have a train, industrial age train, and we have to fix the soul of our educational system and build a new machine that is more relevant and engaging. Because I have 2 sons in LAUSD, and it's hard for me to see them, not quite engage in the fun, not having as much fun with learning as they could be.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think one of the initiatives that Optimistic is going to be coming out with is a nonprofit that I'm going to start before I become LA mayor.
Yeah.
Is to develop a learning management system that's game-based, mixed reality.
Nice.
With NFT art to fund it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that that transforming education and making it engaging for everyone, because it's all about just from what I learned is education is all about resonance. What resonates with you, right? And if whatever resonates is going to engage you, right? And software can find that out just with memes. You can find out through memes what resonates, and then you can take that information and if they like that, then you find out what resonates, and you can create worlds that engage whoever, right? Because there's segments of learners. There's like autistic kids. There's kids who have a little bit trouble focusing, and they might need a little bit more physical activities to get the energy out, right?
Right.
Because it's hard to sit in a classroom for that. I can't sit in a meeting for half an hour. Can you imagine poor kids 6 hours a day sitting down, shut up?
Yeah.
It's too hard.
Yeah. So much pent up energy, so much sort of, to me, from my perspective, the current education system just deprograms people from learning how to learn, learning how to be in contact with what resonates for them. It's just like all exactly the same.
Yeah.
You learn how to be robotic and boring and not listen to your emotional intelligence and just like do things in the constricted, set up way.
Right.
But the essence of learning is fun.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I have a friend who told me everybody likes to learn, not everybody likes to be taught, right?
Yeah, I feel that.
But we learn that we don't like to learn because of how we learned,
Yeah, how we learn to learn.
Yeah, so we think that learning is a bad thing. Yeah. And it's actually, all like what you've been through, like you've been learning outside the classroom about how to do what you do, right? And if that could be supported with some teaching and with some, a design, the community too.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn is from other people. Like you might see someone who is way better, right? You might say, well, what are they doing? How can I do what they're doing? And no matter what, you're not going to be just like each other. You're going to be your own thing no matter what.
Yeah, and there's room for everyone to do what they want, because it's always going to be different.
Yeah.
Everyone is
exactly.
unique.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing that I've kind of like, I got all the technical aspects going, but my social development has been stunted because I feel like my commitment to doing this has not had there's no one else. That's why I
so what do you want?
Here,
let's what is it that I'm curious though, because like how do you want to approach, what is it that you want to focus on, like on your show?
Well, the original conceit of this show is this show's called Formlessness.
Formlessness, okay.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. The original conceit was for it to be ever-changing and not necessarily nailed down to a specific subject matter, and also for it to... I'm a big like improv comedy guy, so my idea was to have it be sort of improv focused, but also not devoid of serious matters or
right.
you know, other stuff, and just to naturally flow with the conversation,
like a rapper kind of.
Yeah. yeah.
Good job rapping at the party, by the way. The other day we were at that party and you did it amazing. You know, I liked how you just went with it, because I know she put you on the spot, right?
That's true. Thank you. Yeah, that's my go-to line.
Nice.
I'm the dopest rapper alive.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, I also, you know, we were talking about this at that same party as well, but I personally, going back to what we were talking about, genuinity, that's the stuff that resonates with me, and what turns me off on a lot of podcasts or shows is when I can sense that sort of underlying anxiety about like the fear of dead air or the need to sort of always be performative.
Right.
And that's something that I wanted to not do.
Right.
But then it creates this sort of paradox where I accept that. I don't try to fill dead air necessarily when I don't know what to say. I'm sort of like a non-host, I would say.
Right.
But then, you know, it is true. It's not necessarily good content. People don't like it that much, you know?
Well,
I don't know.
I just think that, I went through all these stages as a filmmaker. Like, I wanted to make stuff that was different, alternative, whatever. And ultimately, in the end, you know, when you get to be an artist with an audience, because art becomes relevant with an audience, right?
Yes.
And so you got to know who your audience is and how you keep their attention. I taught middle school, and so, you know, my audience is very ADD. So the films I made were very ADD. You know, to keep the attention of 2,000 middle schoolers, right? So
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing, especially when they're watching so many movies. So, in the end, you know, as in our journey to become an artist, we want to be against inauthenticity, the editing or whatever, the manipulations that go on. But ultimately, you got to be able to deliver something that is, you know, that people can sit down and listen to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is your growth as an artist, is to know that this really isn't about you and what you want. This is about your understanding of the art form that you're doing and your audience, and how to connect the two.
Yeah. Wow, that's so true. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, that mindset, I think, is I think every good artist has that contrarian mindset.
Yeah.
And it is part of the journey of the caterpillar to become a butterfly, you know?
Yeah.
Is to have that resistance.
Yeah.
Because then when you get good, really good, and you find your rhythm and your way of being, then you're going to know, okay, maybe there's a reason why there is no maybe when there is dead airspace, it's calculated. You know, maybe it's like for effect, and you're doing it purposefully instead of just randomly, because you understand, you know, how it works, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Dead airspace.
Exactly. So the more aware you are, the better off you are, I think, is in your artistry. And but on the way there, you know, it's you really need, I think everyone kind of needs someone to talk to, and needs a test audience, needs to see people giving you feedback, and you got to listen to that feedback.
Yeah.
Because you got your own movie going on, and then there's other movies going on, and if your goal is to get those people to engage with you, you got to know what they want, right?
Yeah.
And you got to ask questions. Like, for example, we're about to launch Optimistic, and like right now, one of the initiatives we're doing Optimistic is the homeless, right? And there've been all these efforts to like get parking lots, put sheds in them, tell the homeless to move into the parking lots and the sheds in the middle of San Pedro or whatever, and that doesn't really resonate with people who are unhoused, is moving into a parking lot, and they're paying $5,000 per parking spot. So who's really making the money there? The parking lot owner, right?
Yeah.
So
Damn.
So if you don't ask these questions, right? If you don't ask the questions,
right, to people directly,
then you're just spending money, and your organization is getting lots of money, but very little of the money that is donated is getting to the actual person. So the question is, how do you build an efficient organization where what you're doing is research? That's one thing I learned working for Nissan, is like doing unmet needs studies, right? And figuring out what are the unmet needs, what steps do these people need to be in a better situation in life.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that know. And if you don't talk to them, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And in the same way, that's the benefit of being able to take a little bit out of the ego out of what we do, is knowing that we do have to ask a lot of questions before we act, if we really want to succeed,
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah. It makes so much, it's just the most direct, obvious answer is the best one, where if you want to help someone, you ask, how can I help you?
Right.
You don't objectify them or see them as just a demographic or something.
Right. Like you're homeless person, eat my half-eaten sandwich,
Yeah.
Because I actually had I made a friend, and I learned that he was about to go destitute, like on the street, because of his messy divorce, and the way that, just knowing him and him not wanting to be in a bad situation, I bought a van, and I made the first payment, and I said, look, start doing deliveries or whatever, and pay for the van. But, I'll put the loan in my name. So basically, I spent $405 to stop a guy from becoming destitute on the street during the COVID, when he couldn't go any place and eat or have coffee anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think to end homelessness, it takes smart actions. Imagine paying $5,000 for a parking spot per month, right? With the thing that I did, $405, think how many people you could give vans to, and they could take over the payments by making deliveries. You could do smart things with the money that is being doled out now for homelessness, and a lot of that money is just misspent.
Yeah.
And part of Optimistic is to research what we're going to do and do it correctly. And so one of our initiatives is to create a relationship with, we want to end homelessness in Venice, and we're going to start off by giving them a backpack with the basic needs, and then using that backpack to begin a dialogue. Okay, what do you need? And have this sort of, have two angel volunteers to sit with them and fill out a life plan, and then create a story. And how much does it cost to fund that story to success, right?
That's so good. Yes. Yeah. Yes, to get people back in touch with the fact that their brain, what they imagine themselves to be, is how you move your life and navigate to create your life.
Right.
But if you're constantly in the midst of chaos and never having your basic needs met, you can't really access that state of mind. And also, if you have any trauma or any other underlying issues, those are always being triggered.
Right. Yeah, because you have people going up to you going, I live in Venice, and I was this homeless lady sitting down next to me at this place called The Window by the paddle tennis courts, and some guy just comes up and hands her a half-eaten sandwich, and then she's like, no, thank you. He's like, you don't want my sandwich? And then he goes back and he tells his family, she doesn't even want my sandwich. It's like, jeez. And so I think, you see, sometimes a person just needs, you know, a place to store their things so they don't get stolen, an address where to fill out to get benefits and get these stimulus checks, you know, access to a bank account. So actually, with Optimistic, we have another initiative. It's a longer term initiative to create our own currency, like sort of Chuck E. Cheese tokens, to create a new economy in the homeless community.
That's a great idea.
To provide those a new narrative that could be controlled enough to create a new culture, and that initiative is called Revolution 9, is to create our own currency. And unlike other currencies, most currencies, like if you look at Ethereum, for example, I'm thinking about half of those coins belong to the founders. So while the other half goes up and goes up and up, those founders are getting rich because you basically created a marketing plan, right?
Yes.
And half of that is their value. So our idea is Optimistic is a nonprofit. We're going to create coin that is going to be. We're not keeping any amounts. We're just going to create a reward system. And we're going to create a system where you can come into the Optimistic world and be your own character. And if people buy your merchandise, right, then that half would go to you and half would go to Optimistic. Which a record label takes, like an artist like Britney Spears, they get 7% what they make, right? So we would provide the support, the educational support. And this is way down the line, long-term vision kind of stuff, but in this new world, it would be possible for someone who really wants to do something to learn how to do it well and succeed by creating this reward system and the education system behind it. But that's called Revolution 9. It's going to be a long-term initiative, and Optimistic is to create this. But initially, we're going to start off with our backpack Optimistic Vita initiative and our skateboard NFT art initiative to fund this learning management system, gaming learning management system based on video game and skateboard art.
Nice.
So yeah, it takes a lot of, because once you get elected mayor, the next month you have to get started. Right? It's not like, it's like you have to have a plan when you get there, and you got to have the team to do it.
Yeah.
So the goal with Optimistic is to build the volunteer structure and the army that's going to help you change things. So
nice.
That's kind of how my team has helped me approach it. Elena Marie O'Connor is my coach, who's been kind of, because I don't have any experience in politics. He's kind of coaching me on how to enter this space. So so
nice.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get the Instagram Los Angeles mayor.
Hey, that's what sold me. Honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, yeah.
How did that sell you?
I mean, we were just like talking at this party, and you were saying like, I'm gonna run for mayor, and I wasn't sure like if you were joking or not. No offense.
Right.
But yeah. Then you just mentioned that you had that Instagram handle, and to me, whether you're joking or not, I'd vote for a guy who has the real Instagram handle. Then I find out you have this thing, Optimistic,
right,
which is another name that I really resonate with, and that sort of sealed the deal, you could say. But yeah, homelessness for me has been like a lifelong theme where all throughout my youth, it would devastate me seeing homeless people. I didn't understand what was going on. It really like hurt my emotional system. And I think to a certain extent, it does to everyone. Like just having to, it doesn't really matter what your perspective on it is, whether you think it's, the homeless person's fault or whatever, it doesn't matter. The reality is at the end of the day, walking down the street and seeing people who are in a horrible state of health because they can't, they're just it sort of fundamentally changes the context of life for everyone, no
Right.
matter what your status is or anything. You can't ignore that there's just people
Right.
everywhere who are, and yeah.
A classroom is kind of like a little society, right? So you imagine having a classroom and saying, okay, these if you do, these two kids they're going to have everything. The rest of you guys are going to be, living on the street. You're destitute, right? So what I'm saying is that life is a game. The rules are a game. Everything is a system designed for certain people, right?
Yes.
One thing I learned just being a teacher and learning about people, all the greatest lessons I learned about life have been being a teacher, right? And failing and then learning and failing and learning, failing and learning. And when you get into the world of politics, you enter reality because you get to be a part of creating the new rules and the realities. I'm going to build a classroom. I want every student to succeed. I don't care what the rules are now. We're going to make it work, right? And what's holding us back? Old rules that old people invented were probably dead now.
Yeah.
Nothing's holding us back. Nothing. Except the old rules.
And
And
old momentum.
so the campaign that I will be launching is one about what resonates. And obviously the themes are, this country really, it's not about Wall Street, it's not about all that, it's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And our country can't succeed for kids think that those people are going to be them one day if they don't do well in school, right? And the school is no longer relevant. And it is painful to see that. But also, there are some deep fears in all of us that, geez, if I didn't have my mom and dad here, if I didn't have this person here,
Right.
it could be me. And
yeah, exactly.
And once you're in it and you're helpless, then the reality is it's really hard.
Yeah.
So, as a teacher, my thought is everyone should be okay. I'm just a teacher. I can't fund it myself, but politics can fund it. And the money that this city is going to be getting is going to be enough for us to change the way people live in LA and for everyone to be happy. And, I don't believe in taxing the rich. I think that a lot of the success that we can have now, these new tools like blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFT art, we're going to create this LMS with NFT. We're going to fund it with NFT art. All those things, the money will provide the jet fuel for everyone to fly, right? But taxing the rich and all those things, I think those are cruel ideas and outdated ideas that we don't need anymore.
Yeah. Wow. No, people aren't talking about this.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, eat the rich, eat the rich.
Right. And I disagree with that. I think that, you can't just take from people because that assumes that the government has a plan with that money. And you see how they spend the money, right?
Yeah, more tanks.
So that's what I'm saying is ultimately you give it to the school district, what are they going to do? There's no vision there, right? I mean, I would encourage, I guess what I'm saying is you want to create the structure to receive money. And a lot of that could be through wealthy people. And you could have a real plan and make it succeed and no one has to get taxed. Just give it to us. If we're not going to tax you. We just want everyone to be okay. And you want to, you don't have to move to Hawaii, from California to Hawaii to be safe anymore, right? Because Venice has all these people moving because the cars are getting, scratched or, people are spray painting the cars or we have all kinds of people leaving Venice Beach because they're scared.
Yeah.
They're scared and it's just the beginning. If it continues to go this way, it's just the beginning of, a dystopian future if we don't do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and as long as people continue feeling like there's no connection between themselves and the people who are jacking their cars or doing whatever,
Yeah.
like it's only going to create more of that. Like we all need to, I don't know, we all got to realize that there's no real disconnection between anything. Like
No, no. I mean, it's like that Pink Floyd triangle. You see the white light coming in, and the color spreading. Right. The universe is. If it was all white light, there would be nothing. Instead, we're here, right? Yeah. And everything is kind of like a story, right? And if you're aware of the story, you can take control of the narrative. If you're not, you're a victim of the narrative, right?
Yes. And this is why if you're always in a traumatizing, unsafe situation, your brain can't access that level of meta-awareness where you can realize that you're directing your narrative of your life. If you're constantly stimulated by chaos, there's no capability to function.
And that's what the media does. I mean, right now, the whole COVID thing is the type of things that Biden is doing. It's like, wow, he really did seem like, he was, he seems like he has good intentions. Like, he seems like he's just doing the best he can, right?
Yeah, yep.
But, when you look at what he's doing, you're like, oh my God, like, for real? Like, is that really your decision, Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good guy. He has a great life story. He's a great character, right?
Yep.
But you look at what he's doing, and you're like, okay. But then you look at someone like Donald Trump. Here's a guy who has even, other ideas, and people are like, well, at least he's real. At least I know what I'm getting.
Right.
With Joe Biden, it's like, whoa, Joe. Wow. So it's just kind of like...
it goes to show the power of genuinity, where someone like Donald Trump is more resonant with the people because he's his own man, whereas someone like Biden is potentially, overcome by the people in the back seat of politics telling him what to do, and he's not necessarily his own autonomous person. That's my sense, at least.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was in high school, I had this art teacher, and I remember being in, I think, 9th grade. He came up to me and he said, have you ever read a book called The Art of the Deal? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he recommended it. I went to this was in Spain, on the military base school. And I bought the book, and I really, for a long time, I was like, Donald Trump, Art of Life and all this stuff. And he was someone who kind of I looked up to for a long time, as a kid, in the 80s.
Yeah, sure.
And then I saw how he talked sometimes, and there were like flashes of sort of this greatness about Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. That we found out that the book was written by, he didn't write the book really, and all that stuff.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
But anyway, the point is, like, it was all an illusion, right? And anyway, that book kind of made him even more famous, and so here's someone who doesn't read books, and someone who probably develops his philosophy on the golf course or with his exclusive set of friends, and he knows that he can. He's a smart guy, He can play the people. He could, walk down and shoot someone and still be okay, and that's what he says, and it's kind of like that artist brainwash. Like he has no real legitimate art, but the joke is that he's brainwashing you, thinking it's legitimate art, and you're buying it because you're buying into the hype, right?
But his name is brainwash, so that means that he's aware that he's doing this, which means that it is good. Yeah.
It's like intentionally bad art, and but he's brainwashed you into paying, $1 million for it.
Right. And that's what I'm doing if you think the show is bad.
But I say that because I film a lot of things, and then people have said to me, "Oh, you like that dude Brainwash?" And I'm like, "Well,
yeah, you look similar if I remember correctly."
I don't remember what he looks like.
Curly, gray black hair.
But I mean, someone like that to me is, I mean, I haven't really followed his work, but the joke is that he's not really an artist. He doesn't have an artist mentality. The joke is that he's conning you into paying a lot of money for his art, and there's a whole culture of people who have been brainwashed into, and you know, he's extremely successful. I wonder if he's happy, you know. Because in the end, I think his joke is kind of lame, shitty art. You know?
Yeah. Well, he's sort of like riding the coattails of some other more real
trends,
artists.
you know. And so, but you know, whatever society allows to come into being is legitimate. I mean, if there's energy for that, if it's a representative of what our society is accepting, right?
Yep.
And you know, that was a while back. I mean, someone like, you know, I mean, Banksy, an authentic artist, kind of made that happen, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like his joke on the people, is to make this dude famous, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. That movie, that documentary, Exit Through the Gift Shop, made a huge impact on me. Really, I mean, it still feels relevant to talk about.
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
It's
totally.
pretty old.
Totally, yeah.
Well, I ran into Mr. Brainwash 6 years ago.
Oh, you did?
He seemed happy.
Oh, he did? Well, you know, I would be happy too if I was making that much money, but I think a true artist, I don't know. To me,
Is a true artist ever happy?
I don't know.
Can you be happy? Can you live a life that is devoid of suffering and still be an artist?
You know, I think that part of what makes an artist a good artist is the breadth of his experience or her experience, and the breadth of that experience is a little bit of suffering, and then you can create from that suffering because you have the empathy to create from that suffering.
Yeah.
And that contrast of emotion that you experience is what you're articulating in your art, you know. So maybe Brainwash is happy, and that's the problem.
There it is.
I know that, you know, I'm thankful. I would describe myself as thankful, but not, you know, in the constant state of bliss, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfulness is all you need.
Yeah,
I think.
And awareness that, you know, you shouldn't, you know, if you laugh too much, it hurts. You know?
Yeah, laughing's just like the opposite of crying, but it sort of comes full circle sometimes, where you laugh in pain, cry in happiness. Yeah,
it's interesting, you know, just to think about all the characters on the stage of life, you know, and how really every person, I think the media kind of hypes up specific people, but in a way, if you take the time to meet people and talk to them, get to know them, you realize how the media props up these people, destroys these people, mocks these people. You know, they're like the victim. Like, look at Marilyn Monroe. You know, just a goddess of a spirit, right?
Yeah.
Didn't survive, you know, and they know, and so it's almost like, but if you meet people, you get to know them. They're their own stars. You know, that's one thing I learned as a teacher is you get to know kids, and you're like, wow, this kid, and every kid's that way. Every person is that way.
Yeah.
Every person is a star, in my opinion.
I agree.
And how do you get them to believe it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because there's not that much, I mean, everyone is unique, but in terms of just like what we are, we're all the same. We're all human. We all sort of go through the same processes.
Right.
And that goes back to the idea of being transparent, where I feel like, I mean, I think it's transforming at a pretty fast rate, but my pursuit of being transparent and honest resulted in being, you know, excommunicated and rejected.
Yeah.
But it's only because of other people's rejection of their own acknowledgement that they feel these things too, or they go through these things too, which might not be painted as societally acceptable or.
I'll play your music while you sing.
Okay, great. These things that.
Can you hear what I'm playing?
I can.
Oh, cool.
It's just beautiful. You're great.
Well, you know, I'll tell you this. One of the most valuable things I learned as a teacher is that the human mind, it learns, it thinks in concepts, not words, right? And when you understand that the human mind works in concepts, you change the way you think about everything. For example, you know, you might have a kid painting, right? And the kid might paint something, and the whole point is to keep the energy going for the learning, right? So you say, oh, great job. They might be holding the pencil wrong or do something wrong according to you, but they're not really doing anything wrong.
Right.
The purpose is to get them to keep doing it and say, oh, try this, try that, try that.
Yeah.
But the problem is if you don't see the concept of the spiraling up and you tell the kid, yeah, that's not very good, that could be enough to make the kid go home and just quit. Right, and not want to do it ever again.
Right.
And so if you understand the concept of learning is just about the process and enjoying the process and thinking long term in terms of their performance, then you're not really going to criticize a kid for doing what he's doing because they need encouragement. And you have to create the structure for that encouragement. And the way the system is structured now, 35 kids per class, 40 in some cases, and then you throw in some, you see half of their faces, they see half of your face,
Yeah.
And throw in some, a lot of pressures, and it becomes like an untenable learning environment that is really, I don't think parents should tolerate it anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Because the whole thing is like, your value and self-esteem as a person is based on your GPA or what facts you know. And I see people doing this all the time, trying to like prove that they're worth something by what they know or what they've memorized or whatever.
Or the whole concept of being right. Like, like there's some kids, you correct their work, they're like, well, it's still right to do it the way I did it. I go, yeah, but it's still a little more clear if you do it this way. Yeah, but my way is right. I'm right. I'm like... this whole concept of right and wrong creates tension because those kids have been, you don't get to raise them. They just arrive in your classroom with those attitudes. And you're like, okay. And you think, man, they've been brainwashed, right?
Yeah.
And so you're dealing with these the unlearning of learning and the whole approach. It's like you don't have these malleable minds anymore already. In like 7th grade, they're already giving you this resistance, and they're buying into the system of some people are bad, but I'm great, I'm right. It's that programmer in the background, like I'm right. And it's like, if we're these little computers walking around, we have our own movies. Whatever's right for me is right for me. Whatever's right for you is right for you. Right. If you need to be told you're right, where did that come from? Right. Let's learn behavior.
Right. And what's going on behind that need to be right? Like.
Yeah. I mean, who cares if you're right? I mean, when you go to Disneyland, you don't think I'm right. You're just having a good time, right? And you're not thinking about being right. And I think that what's the best design is the best question. Like, what's the best design? And you're not necessarily going to think of those answers, but you should be able to ask people questions about how to get to the best design. Like that girl, in my opinion, should have been like, so why did you ask me to change it? Well, because if you read both these sentences, this is a little more clear, don't you think? Instead, it was like, yeah, it's a little more clear, but I'm still right. And so then you're like, you only have so much time to walk around and debate with kids, right? Or adults. Yeah, or adults. So it's like, you have to say like, okay, maybe give a class a little talk about that, but even then, that's not enough. I mean, you can't give one little talk, and everyone's like has deeply ingrained values.
Yeah. So much of them are just, sort of like conditional self-worth, conditional value.
Right.
Where
And
you get defensive about being wrong or anything that could like trigger that idea that you're not okay. You're not.
yeah. Yeah, it's a little, it's a, and now with technology, the way, one I think I noticed every 2 years, like, the 8th graders would say the 6th graders were crazy because every 2 years it's like a different generation was raised on a different app, It's
Damn.
like, right? So it's
Yeah.
like they're all like, oh, them 6th graders are really crazy. And then by the time they become 8th graders, they're like, well, those 6th graders are crazy,
Yeah.
And because they all, our society's changing so quickly
Yeah.
that we really have to, as adults, we have to come up with a plan and create the structure. So we're not thinking that, people 2 years away from us are crazy because they were raised by a completely different app, right?
Right. I mean, that triggers my insecurity as well, where I'm like, am I relevant? Am I going to be able to be relevant enough to find some sort of audience who
Right.
can give me money so I can survive?
Right.
And it makes it triggers my insecurity. But the weird part about that is like that really has nothing to do with my success or failure.
Mhm.
My own belief in myself, my own conviction, my own passion and communication of passion is what holds value, even if not all of my references are going to hit with everyone. Like,
Right.
There's a completely separate aspect of being human that doesn't revolve around societal memes
Right.
or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, on some level, you always got to know who you're talking to. You can't just go up and just talk to someone like it's everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like
okay.
when you're in Paris, people there are different, right? When you're in Los Angeles, Orange County, Long Beach, right? Different parts of Los Angeles. It's like you got to know who you're talking to, and that's part of the wisdom you get as a person seeking wisdom.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful.
I'm gonna check my parking situation because I don't want to get parking.
Oh, yeah. How long? What time is it?
It's 4:42.
4:42. Nice. I'm gonna create a little bit of dead air.
Cool. Well, I'll use it to drink water too.
Yeah, I guess that is something that I was very focused on that, very naturally good at that for a long time, just knowing who I'm talking to.
Right.
And then I sort of lost my sense of self through that.
Mhm.
Kind of got into like a sort of people pleasing, trying to manipulate people so they would like me or not be mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of went from having like a natural inclination to be able to communicate with all sorts of people to then like, using that in a way that's like subtly manipulative or defensive. But then now recently I've been on sort of the opposite kick where I'm like so focused on my own genuineness and my own truth that I'm not lubed up in terms of that sort of communication.
Yeah, it's what you describe is I felt that way too. I've gone through my people pleasing stages. And what you learn from that is that no matter what you do, people aren't going to be happy, right?
Right.
And so, like your vibe is your tribe, right? That's kind of like why I moved to Venice, is because I love playing paddle tennis, and then the people there are genuine, imperfect people who are comfortable saying whatever they want, and then I thought, wow, I could do Venice Beach, I could just, and so just getting to know some of the unhoused people in the area, and asking them questions and talking to them, and bringing in people who I worked with before and research. I figured out the spot, ground zero for Optimistic, is going to be Venice Beach because I live there and I know it. And I know the people, and and I'm inspired by it. So I think I think it's when I went to Paris, everyone always, when you go into all these like apparel shops, and the shirts would say California, all Los Angeles, and I asked one of the ladies in the kids store, I was like, so what is it with all this California stuff? I mean, Paris is what's cool. I
I'll
mean,
say,
why does everyone care about California here? And she told me California is the coolest thing in Paris, and I was thinking to myself, maybe it's the idea of what California is like from the images, right?
Yeah.
But when you get to California, what you realize is that there's the image of the French of California is inaccurate, because when they arrive, they're like, "Whoa, what is this?" You know.
Yeah.
So,
California just has the best marketing.
well, accidental mark. I mean, the great weather. I mean, it is an amazing place to
Yes.
live.
It is a special place.
But the thing is, though, is that it can be that great, but you have to create the structure for it, and so
Yeah.
that's what my aim is to create a really, as mayor, just create sort of. I've been talking to the architects, as you were there. We're talking to those architects about the vision of Los Angeles, beginning in South Los Angeles, and creating these initiatives like Blacks to the Future. But you know, the thing is that 72% of people who are homeless are Black. They've had these discrimination with mortgages, moving in certain neighborhoods. I mean,
Yeah, racism.
The Black culture has really has been crippled by subtle forms of racism over many years.
Yeah.
And I think that if we just focus on the in-house community and just that will be 72% of them will be Black, and that will be, or going to South Central and doing construction, ambitious construction projects there that transform those communities, and kind of eliminating the red tape to do these amazing things, is going to just serve the underrepresented to transform Los Angeles. And that when you serve the underserved, you're going to be serving the Black community.
Yeah.
It's not really about race, it's about the underserved. And that just happens to be
Yeah.
a lot of Black people.
Yeah.
And so that has to be addressed in a fair way.
Yeah, in a non-objectifying way. There's like plenty of stuff going on which is presented as like helping end racism or not racism, but it still comes from a place of objectifying someone as a different race and not just seeing them as an individual or a human. Like,
right? Yeah, because you know, the media creates a lot of these imagery, right? And what we see is, you know, the media doesn't really do it on purpose. I mean, it's just a uncontrolled narrative of the perception of people, and it's really nobody's fault.
right.
But people can be taught how to be more aware and improve
Yes.
everybody's living situation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's just a matter of using our creativity to work the reality to make things, to restore
yeah.
what has not been, you know, what has been a disenfranchisement of a entire culture, and a culture that's really struggled and continues to struggle and is hurt and is still dealing with an incredible amount of fairness.
Yeah.
And that can't be ignored.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But it also should not be used to reciprocate your own sense of self-hatred or sort of codependent kind of ideas that you need to overextend yourself to right these things. I think it's like there's like a subtlety there where some things just reciprocate what's already, it just like sort of redigests what's already wrong instead of finding the route to moving on and moving through.
But the problem is that there's no structure to change things, right? And there's no clarity how to change things. So the goal of Optimistic is to create a structure, an organic structure to change things, and that is you invest in these communities and you do cool stuff, and you just, all the cool stuff that you're going to do in LA, you start in those communities. And everyone from the affluent communities say, I want one of those too. I want this amazing thing too. I want these cool facilities, these amazing things these architects, these imaginary architects are going to build. I want that too. And so it's just kind of starting backwards, right? Starting that backwards of what has been done in the past.
Yes. Yeah. So, staying true to that genuine resonance from the beginning.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, if you're in Los Angeles, vote for this man.
I'm not an official candidate now, I should say.
Wait, you are?
I'm not.
Okay. Wait, you are?
I'm not an official candidate.
Okay.
Right now, I'm waiting right now to be ready.
That's beautiful. Yeah. What an amazing thing to say. So much the opposite of the general politic.
Well, the thing is though is since I've never done politics before, I kind of realize there's all these things I really have to before I start accepting money, I really want to know what I'm going to do, and because all these nonprofits, you give them they get so much money, but and within them there is these highly paid executives. There's all these, someone told me that out of $75, $10 actually gets to the people for some of these organizations. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that you got to kind of wonder. It's just like war, how much money mongering is going on here, right?
Yeah.
And so part of the problem is that people have money issues personally, right? And you put them to run
money issues.
You put them to run companies, and if you haven't made cured of your need or greed for money and things and wanting more and more stuff and more land, more and more whatever you want, right? Yeah. You shouldn't be receiving money for the homeless because you're going to be like, well, I'm going to pay myself $100,000. I'm going to, and so I think you have to be like sort of like not a money hungry person to create a pure system of transparency. Because what the great thing about blockchain and this currency is that when you give someone $1 or of this currency or the value of this currency, you'll be able to tell where that money went exactly to that person's pocket. Where did it end up? There's like a paper trail for every penny.
Right. And the paper trail is not owned by a certain person who can influence the paper trail.
Right. And everyone knows where everything goes that comes in. And so we want to create the structure where money that comes in, it'll come with a narrative. I mean, so it's like a vision to end corruption. Plato's Republic, in there it's discussed that Plato says that if transparency did exist, if there was a tool for transparency, which there is, cameras, right? But financially, it's blockchain.
Yep.
If you could do that, then every person would act virtuously.
Yes.
Because of that transparency.
Yes.
Because they know that everybody would know what they're doing.
Yes.
And so
this is what can change. It doesn't have to be money. It can be any area of life. That function creates massive change and balance.
Right.
And a lot of our normal, basic human processes are seen as embarrassing or not socially acceptable to talk about. Right. And the more that we come back to just acceptance of ourselves as humans and able to communicate holistically and transparently without manipulating ourselves to appear attractive or appear a certain way.
Yeah, I mean,
the better.
Attractiveness is authenticity, I think. You know?
Yeah.
It's the people who have these sort of this blockage. You know, they're kind of like, you know, we got this uptight vibe. Like, I can't believe you said that. You know, like it's kind of like, oh, you. It's like that dude from The Office. You know, with my stapler. You know, what's that?
Yeah, yeah.
The Office Space. you move my stapler, you're gonna fire me. You know, it's kind of like, it's like we're all kind of, you know, have blockages. You know,
Yeah.
and so this is something that, you know, you shouldn't be expected to do it right away. It's a whole growth process. But what I found is I've kind of worked on myself to prepare this concept of being myself. Being myself, being yourself is perfection, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and sometimes you have to, when things come up, you gotta be able to, you know, talk about it. And as a storyteller, but not just be like, screw all you, yeah, I did that. You know, it's this kind of like, you gotta know how to deliver the story, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it's good timing, and sometimes it's not good timing, and sometimes it's out of your control, and sometimes within your control. And I do consider art the ultimate form of politics. I mean,
Yep.
because it's conceptual, right?
Yeah.
And that's how the human mind thinks in concepts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the more sort of forgiving you can be of yourself when you do things with bad timing, the easier it is to know what good timing is.
Yeah, exactly.
The more worried you are
How
about
can you know
failing.
one is without the other, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I gotta use the bathroom. Is that?
Yeah,
Are we
please.
almost done here? Or?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Really?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you
Okay.
so much for being here. I really appreciate
Hey.
you and sharing your wisdom and message. And seriously, remember Los Angeles Mayor Instagram. Yeah, is there anything else you want to like plug or anything?
Just thank you. You know, I just want to say thank you for having me, and I'm inspired by your journey here. I'm inspired by your studio and everything you got going on here. I see someone who's with an incredible amount of dedication here. So,
Thanks.
you know, I'd be happy to, you know, talk to you in the future, you know, about your opinions on things and how to build structure for people like you who have this dream of having their own voice that you know, finds its audience over time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it starts just with finding your own voice, which everyone
Yeah.
can do. Should
Totally.
have the opportunity to do.
Yeah, these I want to show these we're, one of the initiatives we're doing is in the virtual world we're creating in the learning management system. All our items are unique. Like we're taking thrift finds, customizing them, and the characters in that world are going to be able to have their own. And like for example, this will sell as NFT art. This item here,
Yeah.
the first buyer will get this, and then the JPEG will be the digital file that the characters in Optimistic World can wear. So for example, this
That's a great idea.
this little stenciled item here, Kobe inspired, is how we begin to build our world is through creations by the people. And if people buy your items in the world, then that's how you make money. But
Yeah.
Optimistic itself is a nonprofit. So we're just a neutral structure for people to make money and to make, hopefully, a living.
Yes. Amazing.
Eventually, and once, you know, we get there. I keep talking about the longer vision. But the first thing is to begin with the basic needs of the homeless in Venice.
Yes.
And to begin that journey, and we'd like to create NFT art of their journey, and that NFT art, which looks like a little plot line with a climax and everything, will be something that people will be able to fund in the auctions and fund the entire return of the individual back to their life, take two of their
Yes.
life.
Yes. Amazing.
So, anyway, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Bye. Cool.
Good
Well,
stuff.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you got to pee, the bathroom's on the left.
Thank you. Cool sunglasses.
Hey, cool sunglasses yourself.